Hello, here is your astrology chart, and we're going to start off by looking at the lineage, which is from the moon, and you have moon in Taurus, and your south node is in the 8th house, so we call this the Scorpio job in the Taurus tribe. So Taurus as a tribe is the ones who are, so you think about 12 different tribes, first of all. Taurus tribe within the 12 is going to be the one who is embodied. These are the bodied people in the tribe who, if you imagine coming from spirit world into physical bodies, the Taurus tribe is the one who's able to find ways to make the necessary circumstances for us to have the embodied experience. So I often do relate to this as the people who are enjoying the finer things in life, because that's what Taurus collectively has been talked about as being the beautiful, big body, loving embodiment. So that's the imagery that we had. But we can change that, of course. And that's what you're here to do specifically, because your lineage is in Taurus. You've mastered the embodiment. You've mastered being embodied, having what it takes to support embodiment, meaning food, shelter, clothes, knowing how to master this bodied world. And with the specialty being in Scorpio, it's the ones who are mastering. I always talk about Scorpio like plugging into an electricity socket and having full life force energy running through your body, and being able to, with the Taurus moon, being able to embody full power and full life force energy. So from that, going into the new school, you're here to learn about Taurus. And the north node is in the 2nd house. So we call this the Taurus job in the Taurus tribe. So let's look at this axis here. I call this the evolutionary axis, because here is where you're going, and over here is where you've been. And if you haven't seen Moana with your daughter, I hope you do, because you can imagine here from Earth's perspective, this is the map of the sky the moment you were born. There's a scene in Moana where Maui is teaching her how to navigate, how to be a way shower, or a wayfinder, they call it. And here he's saying you have to see where you're going in your mind. You have to know where you're going by knowing where you've been. So that's why, or it really describes the way I feel about this axis, is which we don't want to focus on just here, and we don't want to focus on here where we've been. We want to use all the information of where we've been in order to get to where we're going. So that's the way I view that nodal axis. So Taurus job in the Taurus tribe. This is really finding. So you've already mastered Taurus, and now you're here to learn about Taurus again. So just like taking a yoga posture, there's going to be, from the initial posture, which for you is Taurus, say this is going to be a standing tree pose. From mastering the standing tree pose, there's all these different variations you can do based off of that grounded posture. And I'm using that posture because it's a perfect posture for Taurus. Being in your body, fully grounded and stable and balanced on your own 2 feet. So moving into Taurus as a rising sign, learning how to do full embodiment from this new perspective. So the Taurus job, it just can't get more explicit in the directions to be embodied. Finding your way to fully have the embodiment experience. Let's look at your Jupiter, Jupiter is the way to get from the lineage to the new school. And when you have the lineage and the new school are pretty much exactly the same, because even your specialty from your lineage is the same polarity as what it is for your new school. So we can pretty much say that, how do you master something that you've already mastered? So Jupiter is going to show us sort of some ideas and some ways to do that. So Jupiter is in Sagittarius, which is the way shower. It is the one who's questing and finding new ways. It's about evolution, spirituality, and full expansion and questing. So then we also will look at the house position for Jupiter. And guess what? The house position is in Scorpio. So again, the shaman, the mystic, the one who's bringing maximum life force energy. So using Jupiter as your pathway to your new school, this is where I see you anyway. It's not about what I think, but this is what I'm experiencing from you right now, is really Sagittarius and Scorpio, where it is like Scorpio is that quick, it's just potent, powerful life force energy. And then Sagittarius is all about, we just need to move forward. We just need to expand. We need to go. It doesn't matter. Don't even grab your stuff, just go. That's the sort of energy of Sagittarius. So your inner masculine, Aries and Taurus. So Mars in Aries, and what we do is mix the Mars with the rising sign to get a good view of what is your emerging masculine. So Aries is that protector of the tribe, fierce, motivated, super athletic, aggressive, assertive. You mix that with Taurus and you get an image of a sort of very bodied, assertive, protecting type of energy. Mix the archetypes yourself to get your own view of the combination of the two. And then your inner feminine is, you have your Venus in Aries. And what we do here is blend your Venus with the Descendant to see what is the emerging goddess within you, the form of the feminine that you most wish to connect with. And this will be often what you see on the outside. This is where we do projection and see women through this lens. And the idea is that we notice this on the inside and find our own relationship from within. Venus in Aries is a warrior goddess. She is fierce, protective. This is a lot of times we'll call this the midwife. This sometimes can be that very feminist type because she is protecting whatever she is in charge of protecting. So, and I'm just saying feminist because it is a warrior for feminism. And I know that those things bother you so much. So it's something to look at, and it's not necessarily just that. It is whatever the goddess has decided to stand for and to protect, she'll do it fighting tooth and nail, whatever the topic is. The topic doesn't really matter. It's the energy behind the topic and having this like fierce, that is the Kali energy. And when you mix your Aries, Venus, with Scorpio, that is exactly Kali energy. Actually, putting those two together to see the view of your inner feminine. It is very Scorpio itself being the shaman, running life force energy, being not afraid of the dark, actually very acclimated to the dark. It's an underworld energy. So mixing Aries with Scorpio, you get this fierce, deep, shamanic. Often when I see your relationship, so we call this relationship material, but this is your inner feminine. I can see why you would be my friend. I can see why you like me, because this is how there is a sense of like, you can see me enacting those things which are you, and it's almost in its purest form, because of we have created this beautiful bond, this beautiful relationship where it's no separation between, you know, being able to see another woman and be like, yes, saying yes to it. And then, you know, when I look at the archetypes, I'm like, yeah, because, and I feel that way around you, and I might feel that way around you because that is your inner vibe on your feminine, you know, the way that the goddess is emerging in you. So this is coming up right now, that image of Shiva-Shakti, and that we're understanding that they are one. We take things apart to talk about them, just like the yin-yang symbol. We take it apart to experience all the yin and all the yang, but what a master knows is that these are one. It's not separate. We took it apart to explain it, but that it's one. It's the same thing with Shiva-Shakti, your inner god, the way that the god is emerging in you, and then your inner goddess, or the way the goddess is emerging in you. It is still just one, and it is the god, just the god, and however you call that is emerging from you. So we look at the astrology to get an idea about what those things might be, and that's what I'm reading to you right now. So the way that we have this to merge within, so that we're not projecting anymore, that's pretty much what I spent 2 years working on, is different exercises to do, different ways of meeting your own inner feminine from within, so that you can have that what I like to call the sacred marriage, or the inner lover, the inner beloved, whatever it is, bringing them together and having them unite. So I'm not going to go through everything on here. What I wanted to note was for today, where the planets and where everything is today of the solar eclipse on the 21st of August. The solar eclipse is running through right here, and that was just about an hour ago that we had the eclipse. There's nothing in the pathway for you personally running through there. So this is somebody else's chart, and she has Mars right in the pathway of the solar eclipse. I personally had my rising sign, which you and I both have the same rising sign. Yours is at 5 degrees Taurus. Mine is at 27 degrees Taurus, so I'm all the way down here. And the solar eclipse was exactly square to my rising sign. I looked at all the squares, all the oppositions, all the conjunctions. There was nothing personal for you on the solar eclipse. The thing is, like, we all are experiencing the energy of what's happening right now with the solar eclipse. But on a personal level, there'll be a little bit of a different sort of flavor to what's happening. Let's see, some other things you have personally going on right now is Uranus is exactly on your Venus. Uranus is a change agent, and it's exact. I mean, it couldn't get any closer. So Uranus is a change agent. It wants to flip the script, change your vantage point, change your perspective about the feminine, about your own relationship to the feminine, to the goddess, because this is you, your own, if you see yourself as a reflection of everything, and that everything is a reflection of yourself, this is your relationship to the goddess. Uranus wants to create chaos and confusion, and I like to call it flipping the script, because it's like pulling the cloth out, and you're like, so it's change. It's all about change. And for you at this moment, and actually for a while, because Uranus moves very slowly, it is about your relationship to the feminine. Also, you have your Venus opposing Saturn and Pluto. This makes your relationship to the Venus super potent and powerful, and also super challenging, super not fun, you could say, because Saturn is the authority, the boss. It's almost like, not almost like, I have two really good friends in my astrology school who have this exact same Venus opposing Saturn and Venus opposing Pluto. And it's known in astrology from the relationship material to be some of the hardest stuff to work with. So what one might experience when Venus is relating to Saturn in this way, Venus opposing Saturn, maybe experiencing women. So like, let's talk about romantically in a love life, or because that's where it gets the most like sticky, icky, challenging, you know what I mean, when it's like romance and looking at this other woman clear in the eyes and not being able to escape from that reflection, and you just want to say, oh, it's her, she sucks, I'm leaving. That's what we normally do in our love relationships, which is a lot of times why we try to avoid them, because we don't want to have that happen. So with Saturn opposing Venus, it can be repeated experience from within, and it'll show up on the outside that I'm not good enough. I can't make her happy. I can't do it in a way that makes her happy. You know what I mean? Like continuously being rejected, continuously being, and it's from the inside. Doesn't necessarily happen from the outside, because she could be fully accepting you and fully loving you, and you will still feel not good enough or still feel not worthy. And that's a Saturn complex to your inner feminine. And if you experience that, there's ways to work with that, by doing the sacred marriage, and through recognizing, like, okay, have I felt this way? Have I felt that there is no way to please her, whoever she is? You know, it could be mom, sister, lover, girlfriend, wife, even your own daughter, because it is just the projection onto women and onto the feminine principle. So that's Saturn opposing Venus. The next thing is Pluto opposing Venus. And the Pluto opposing Venus is exact. So with Saturn, it's a few degrees off and we would still count it. But with Pluto, it's exact. So having the feminine, or your, women around you, bringing you to the underworld, having that most, actually the way my teacher calls this complex is that women lovers in particularly, but women overall, having the ability to bring you, first of all, to the deepest intimacy, to the deepest, where you lay in bed at night and pour out your deepest self, and the times that I have connected with you, either through dreams, and I've shared with you some of the dreams that I've had, not all the dreams that I've had, because some of them I couldn't tell you, but most of them I did. And then times when we've laid next to each other at night and I get this, what I can feel it, So in those moments, it's like being able to get pulled to the deepest core of your own body, your own being, and having that reflected back to you, which is great. If you see that just by itself, this is super potent, powerful connection to the feminine, being able to be fully intimate and naked, not necessarily in the literal sense, but in the literal sense also, but fully exposed into me see, where somebody can see right to your soul. That's Pluto opposing Venus. You can see the pros and cons of having that as an aspect in your life. That alone, I think that's, to me, that's wonderful. I love that depth and intensity. But when you put that with Saturn, let's look at this. Okay, the dead of the night, you're with your beloved, super close, super connected, allowing her to see you in all of your glory and whatever's the opposite of glory, having her to see you fully for everything, nothing hidden. And then have that feeling of not being good enough, or of not being able to, because that's what Saturn does. Saturn gives us this contraction feeling where we're not able to quite get to get there, you know. Of course, there is a reason for that. The reason is that, okay, well, first thing that comes in my mind is that do the sacred marriage. Because Saturn wants us to become the author of our own life, to take full ownership of our experience and our perception, and for you, related specifically to the feminine, the way that you see the feminine, the way that you are the author of your own inner goddess. Saturn wants us to own that, and to not reject anything, and to not push anything to the outside, to bring it in and own that. And so I'm really feeling this a lot because I have the exact same aspect to my Mars. I have the exact same. So I have Mars and Saturn in direct opposition to each other, the same way that you have your your Venus in a direct opposition to Saturn. So we have the same thing. My friend from astrology school sent me a message. So his face is on the screen while I'm recording, and he has this exact same complex too. So we're all sort of moving the Saturn energy in a way like, okay, well, what is this for me? You know what I mean? Is it, the first thing that comes to my mind is a chapter of a book that I read recently about not everybody, okay, some people chose not to get into relationships. And it's actually tagged on a book that I'm reading right now called The Great Human Potential. So relationships, they're talking about, because of the hindrance that it brings, you get so involved in this reflecting back and forth to each other that this becomes such a thing, this relationship. And I'm not saying I agree with that. I'm saying that we can know that we have this complex, that for some reason I can never quite get it right with the outer other. For some reason it just, it's like literally I just can't do it. And my friend will say the same thing. His name is Adam. He will say the same thing. It's like, but there's this feeling of like, why can't I? And you have it extra because you got Pluto there also, which makes you really want to do it, have this real longing for that deep intimacy and connection, which I think that we have, minus the whole romance thing, So that's something for you to look at, because Uranus is actually activating that whole pole, the whole polarity, because Uranus is here opposing. So anyway, it's touching Venus, which will activate the whole aspect, the whole complex that you have. That's what's going on right now for you. You also have Chiron directly on your sun. Chiron today is at 27 degrees of Pisces. Your sun is at 27 degrees of Pisces. Chiron... So the thing that rings right away is Chiron comes to bring the pain. But what happens really is that Chiron is showing you pain so that you can have alchemy and create a way to digest that. Let yourself feel it, you know what I mean? That's the video that I made about being triggered, is like getting triggered allows that whatever it is to get opened up and flare. And so then we're able to digest it. If you push it down, keep it in, blame it on somebody else, you're not able to digest the juice of your own inner. It doesn't always necessarily need to be pain. Sometimes it's your own joy that you weren't able to fully access in a moment, gets trapped in the body. When it gets triggered, you let it digest. It's just that it's easier to digest the joy for us in this culture most of the time. Anything else I want to mention on your chart? No, that's it. So I'll go ahead and stop here. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll be happy to answer. Thank you so much, and I look forward to connecting with you soon.